Hello my lovelies, welcome to a new tutorial with me, Angela from Elfen Helden. Our project today is a simple wooden box which we will completely transform with the help of WoodUbend, Dixiebelle chalk mineral paints and a beautiful Waterslide transfer from Bells and Whistles. To prepare, I first cleaned the box with white lightning as per usual, and since it is made of pine wood, I primed it with bonding boss in clear to avoid changing the paints or the colors of the paints due to the tannins in the wood. Today I'm working with 3 shades from the chalk mineral paint series. It is Dusty Blue, Burlap, and for a little bit of shabby chic, Coffee Bean. I first apply the Dusty Blue on the outside areas of the sides, and the bottom will be painted entirely in this color. The brush I'm using is the mini brush. As you know, it is my favorite brush. And it has synthetic bristles. It is an incredible, difficult word for a German person. Synthetic bristles that perfectly holds the paint and is wonderful for blending colors. The burlap is now placed in the middle and worked into the Dusty Blue with very light brush strokes at the transitions while the paint is still wet. I'm doing that to simulate a fading of the paint towards the middle. Since the paints dry quite quickly, I spray some water over it with my fine mist spray bottle so it stays moist until I'm satisfied with my result. There are actually many ways to blend colors together. The one I'm showing here is just one of them. After the transition of the colors is already blurring, I go over the entire surface with the burlap brush in different directions to spread out the burlap into the Dusty Blue even more. While doing that, I hardly touch the surface. I call it butterfly kisses. I work this back and forth with the Dusty Blue and the burlap until I'm satisfied with the color result at the end. If a brush has absorbed too much of the other shade of the paint, I simply clean it in between with a damp paper towel. To keep the paint moist, you can choose to mist the project or your brush with water. I often work with both techniques depending on my mood. This is how I work on all 4 sides of the box. Since the paints cover very well, and this will be just a decorative piece, I only need 1 coat of paint. After the paint has dried, I go over the areas that will naturally age a bit, meaning around the edges, using the dry brush technique with the darkest color I've chosen, the Coffee Bean. This is just to add a little bit of shabby chic to it. For doing that, I use my premium chip brush because I would like to see a few brush strokes using this technique. With the dry brush technique, I pick up very little paint and even offload it on a piece of cardboard so that the brush is almost dry. I work from the outside to the inside with light brush strokes again. At one point, I added too much of the paint. It's like a big blob of the coffee bean, and I didn't like that at all. So I basically just did the same technique the other way around with the Dusty Blue, just to soften the coffee bean again. So don't be scared if it's never messed up. It's only paint, and if you don't like it, you just paint over it. There's many ways to correct things. Now I have the coffee bean open. I already prepare my WoodUbend flowers. I'm using the WoodUbend 6098. These will get a base in coffee bean, and while I'm applying the Waterslide transfer to the box in the next step, the paint on the WoodUbend has a chance to dry. To make it easier to get into the details of the ornament, I used a French tip brush as it is a little bit pointed. Now, the Waterslide transfer from Bells and Whistles, they do have a colorful and a gray side of the design. Later on, the colorful side will be placed onto the project, and the gray side facing upwards is basically used as a reference. In order to be able to align design easier, I cut the edges to size right up to the design. Now I remove the clear protection film. As I said, I place it with the colorful side on the desired position. The Waterslide transfers are now transferred with the help of a damp cloth, which I rub over the grey side of the paper to moisten the paper and release the transfer from it. The Waterslide transfers don't have a sticky back, so you don't need to be scared. If you touch it, it'll stick to your fingers. As I said, it'll only get sticky when you add water to the paper, and then it'll stick to your project. You need a little bit patience, but definitely less elbow grease to transfer these onto your project. You know, with the rub-on transfers, it is sometimes very hard. With a squeegee, I press the transfer additionally on and excess of water out of the paper. And then I start carefully lifting the edges to check if the transfer is already sticking and releasing from the paper. If not, I put the paper back onto the project and let it sit a little longer until it releases. The slits between the boards of the box I cut with a sharp scalpel and press it into the slot with a squeegee, so just that it looks neater. Now comes the next part. So that I can see the transition better, I also cut off the edge right up to the design, basically like on the first thing when I started. To prevent the transfer from accidentally moving, as it is, as I said, not sticky, I'm folding it around the edge before I start applying my damp cloth onto the paper. The next steps are now the same as I mentioned before, so nothing different. And we are going to do the whole thing around the entire box until it is completely covered all the way around. Oh yes, and don't forget to remove the clear protection film. Anyone who watched me doing this live knows what I mean. And yes, I also make mistakes. Now I dedicate myself to WoodUbends. I love my WoodUbends. The coffee bean is dry in the meantime, and the ornament now gets a dry brush with Dixiebelle only over the raised areas of that ornament. WoodUbends can be painted before or after application, depending on what your plans are. Since I don't want to change my base anymore, it is first prepared and then applied with WoodUGlue. I use WoodUGlue from WoodUbend. It is perfect for the WoodUbends and far less messy than other wood glues. I know what I'm talking about. To make the ornaments snuggle more easily onto the surface, I have already preheated it a little on my griddle so that it becomes flexible. Apply the wood glue to the back and make sure to cover the whole surface of the ornament. Place it in the desired position and press it on firmly. You don't need to be scared to harm any of the details. Even when it's softened up, you cannot do that. It's impossible. To make sure it clings on completely to the surface, I heat it again and press it down again, especially around the edges, to make sure that there's no gaps or anything. I remove the excess glue that squeezes out on the sides eventually with a damp brush. A damp cloth or a damp ear swab will also work. I would like to match the lower edge of the box and the ornaments, handles and feet, which are going to be applied later on, to the gold in the transfer. To do this, I use a product from Dixiebelle out of the Bells and Whistles line. It is called Dixie Shine, and the glue to apply it is the Stick With Me glue. So I first apply some of the Stick With Me glue around the areas where I want to apply the foil later on. Just around, the bottom rim and a little on the ornaments. I don't want to cover them completely. And also the handles and the feet. I let the glue dry for at least 20 minutes. It depends a little bit on room temperature and humidity. When the glue, which is a little milky when you apply it, has dried clear and is sticky to the touch, it is ready to apply the foil. And it'll stay that sticky. It doesn't matter if you leave it on for 20 minutes, half an hour, 1 day or 10 days. Unless you stick or you add something on top, it'll stay sticky the whole time. So, as I said, now I put the Dixie Shine foil, which I have already cut to size a little, on top of the glue, and with my finishing pad I rub the foil into the recesses. When peeling off, the gold now sticks to the glue, and only the plastic foil is releasing. With my fingers, I check if there's any more sticky areas. If there are, I just put the foil back down and rub it back onto until all the sticky areas are gone at the end. That strip of foil I'm going to use all the way around, also until I've used all the gold which is on that foil. I do the same with the ornaments, which I had only partially treated with the glue, as I said before, and yeah, also the handles and the feet, as I said. By the way, the handles and the feet are made of metal. I only cleaned and degreased them with alcohol beforehand. To push the foil into the details of the ornament, I use my fingers and the French tip brush. Again, as I said before, when painting the ornament, it is pointed, so it makes your life a little easier. Later on, you'll also see me using a toothbrush with soft bristles. There's many tools you can use to push the foil into the details, so just be a little inventive by doing that. As a last step, the feet and the shell handles are screwed onto that box, and the transfer is sealed with the top coat flat from Dixiebelle, just to make it more durable. Well, another project has been completed now. How do you like it? So I'm happy that you've watched to the end, and I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. And I would be very happy if you follow my channel, if you hit the bell so that you don't miss any new videos from me. And if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to write me in the comments or write me a message. Well, thanks ever so much for being with me today. Have a lovely day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And I'm sending hugs from Germany. Take care. Your master of disaster, Angela. Ta-da. Bye-bye.